Why is your mic so quiet the last couple of days?
Baby, now I know I loved you like a funny story of a favorite pastime. Remember when you came and sat here at my side? First time I ever really sang my mind. Layla left you for dead, no. Upon return, nobody did I find. I lost my head, left you behind. How I wish I could have turned back that time. Oh, but today I'd say could be a good day. The sun on ocean waves that make the spray that hurtles to my face when I hurt to fill the space between me and the golden rays. Let's play upon this place of ever-cleansing slates and ever-shifting sands and yet ever-uplifting hands. Baby, now I know I love you more than I ever even could have hoped to last time. Remember when I told you now I walk a lonely road? You couldn't even read the signs. Ready to leave me for dead, no. But upon return, still nobody did I find. I lost my head, left you behind. How I wish I would have turned back the time. Oh, today I'd say could be a good day. The sun on ocean waves that make the spray that hurtles to my face without her to fill the space between me and the golden rays. If it's play upon this place of ever-cleansing slates and ever-shifting sands and yet ever-uplifting hands. I fell up out of love. I don't know how I came back down, 'cause I felt like I lost gravity without you around. I don't know if I am stuck or how to get around this ever-growing cavity where once my heart was found. Oh, but today I say it could be just 'cause the way I say it could be how to change the way it would be, and you finally understood me.
What's good, Brody? Cole, this is Cole Lateral TV. We're just going to be straight up watching Destiny. If you don't like it, let me know. But yeah, I don't know if I'm going to play Shipbreaker or I might try something else. I think I'm going to play that for let's see how long it'll last. And then we might move on to something else. So, yeah. What's the matter?
EA Sports. It's in the game.
stuff, you know. Show your love to the world.
Nice.
We're going to be watching at 1:25 until we catch up. We're 7 minutes behind.
That's it. They're also getting tarred and feathered hard in the replies. No one agrees with them. The guy with the 15,000 likes on his tweet? Okay.
Didn't make me love Putin. It made me hate my own leaders, because I grew up in a country.
What was your first impression when you met Vladimir Putin for the interview?
I thought he seemed nervous, and I was very surprised by that. And I thought he seemed like someone who'd overthought it a little bit, who had a plan. And I don't think that's the right way to go into any interview. My strong sense, having done a lot of them for a long time, is that it's better to know what you think, to say, you know, as much as you can honestly, so you don't get confused by your own lies, and just to be yourself. And I thought that he went into it like an over-prepared student. And I kept thinking, why is he nervous? But, you know, I guess because he thought a lot of people were going to see it.
But he
What? I don't. Okay.
About this as a streamer myself for almost 6 years now on how hard it really is. I'm kidding. I would look. I just.
Oh God, it's just like, what's funny is you haven't even addressed this again since then. I know. It's just an opportunity for every single person to be like, look guys, I'm a content creator.
Wait, did I miss something, or what did he say?
About this as a streamer myself for almost 6 years now on how hard it really is. I'm kidding. I would look. I just.
Oh, it's never mind. I was fixing on the wrong thing. I got it. Okay. Wait, wait. This is what he's. Wait. Okay. Okay. I thought there was something like more insidious in here. I got it.
Oh God, it's just like, what's funny.
Wait, how long is he about to go mauled over this comment? Wait, what?
You haven't even addressed this again since then. I know. It's just an opportunity for every single person to be like, look guys, I'm a content creator. I'm really privileged. Like, yeah, dog. We all are. We all talk about it all the fucking time. It just annoys me because like, it's such a fake fucking thing to do. It's just literally using someone who you're friends with like being maliciously clipped out of context to be like, I'm actually one of the good content creators. I know how privileged I am. It's like, yeah, I do too. That's so fucking dumb. Oh my god. Like, It's like no different than what Muda did. He showed the context though. It doesn't fucking matter that he showed the context. It's just a way to just literally farm off the fucking drama. Whatever. Fuck it. Who gives a shit?
I don't give a shit about this conversation.
Yeah,
Frankly,
no video for Nick Marks from Ludwig. You know, because
I think it's dumb. Okay?
streaming these people have to deal with it, law.
Can I just say also just real quick? Can I just because I don't think you understand like how much of a like selfish rat fuck piece of shit Hassan is. Okay, Hassan is expecting, right? He has the expectation that these guys are gonna throw out a life raft for him when he's committing optic suicide. Okay, that these guys are gonna stake their reputation on throwing a life raft at him when he sat there and he basically ridiculed Ethan for being upset that Hassan's entire fan base was calling him basically a fucking Nazi, with Hassan being like, well, I don't know what I can do. I'm not doing anything about that. I don't know. I can't do anything about that. And now he's over here rolling around like a baby who's shit his diaper twice with nobody to change it, crying that all of these other streamers aren't throwing out life rafts to help Hassan because he can't fucking control himself for more than 2 weeks without saying something else fucking retarded. Jesus.
It's like, it's odd that I have to just like sit here and be like, yeah, that's right, dude. Yeah, wag your fucking finger at me. Like, you know.
Ludwig deleted the video? Did he actually? Oh, then Ludwig is even a bigger pussy than Hassan. What the fuck?
What I mean? Yeah.
Where is the meme? Where's the meme?
As a matter of fact, I seek it out. So we gathered 4 people, including one former Hasanabi fan.
Where? Give me the full. I want to watch that. Not the itty bitty clip. Give me the 10 seconds. I want to see it.
I've gotten numb to the person. Like it's not. As a matter of fact, I seek it out now because I make content out of it. I think it's funny. It's fun.
God, the way that he talks. Sorry. The way that he talks in this interview is so fucking funny and epic. The way that he talks about how he seeks out criticism because it's fucking funny. I seek it out. I make content out of it. Like, bro, oh my god, how long have you been living in California, dude? Jesus.
It's just, you're right. A communist, hypocrite, fucking. This bums me out more, honestly, than random dumb fucks online that are just saying a whole bunch of shit about my family or whatever. You know what I mean? I said this already. The shit from Twitter doesn't do anything. It's not real. It's like mostly fucking bot farmed into oblivion, and it's like a right-wing shithole. It's when content creators who are liberal or have like a larger, broader audience, like an audience of real people, when they frame it in the same way that they see it off of Twitter, that is fucking that actually does lead to real world shit. I said this already. The shit from Twitter doesn't do anything. It's not real. It's like mostly fucking bot farmed into oblivion, and it's like a right-wing shithole. It's when content creators who are liberal or have like a larger, broader audience, like are not.
Is that Ludwig? Content creators that are liberal? How many of the people roasting Hassan right now are even political content creators? What does politics have to do with any of the stuff that's going on over the past few days for these stupid Hassan clips? Are liberals like the boogeyman now? Like even normal people, you're in traffic and some guy like swerves in and out, you're like fucking liberals? Like what?
Audience of real people, when they frame it in the same way that they see it off of Twitter, that is fucking, that actually does lead to real world shit.
But that is the reality, okay? And I'm not trying to fucking woe is me for somebody making 50K playing video games, but it does get even worse for some streamers. Specifically, today, it got a whole lot worse for a lot of streamers because they woke up and the website that they used to stream on, that they built their career on, that they made their community in, is gone. And that's what I actually want to talk about here today, which is the Twitch shutdown in Korea.
That's so whack. Oh my god.
You didn't know that shutdown officially happens literally right now, February 27th Korea time. It's February 26th America time, and that's how time zones work. It is officially shut down. Why?
Dude, come on, bro. Don't fucking farm me like that. Jesus Christ, that's lame as fuck, actually.
He's such a soft little baby bitch, dude. Oh my god. I wouldn't care if he was just soft if he at least treated the people around him that way. I can't believe he expected Ethan to endure his fucking fan base spam posting Ela murdering Palestinian baby cartoons across 7 different anti-fan subreddits with him saying, I can't do anything, bro. And then he gets so mad over this shit.
Like, I thought he was at least gonna. Oh, yeah. For a good cause, at least. Yeah, dude. He's a great cause. He Franco'd you? No, Philip DeFranco at least did an honest, like he did the, what do you guys think at the end of it? But at least he did a fucking honest, like he showed that it was like out of context and it's fucking bullshit. Like, for the most part. Not
By the
you.
way, I'm not even defending the. I'm not even like. I'm just trying to tell you guys how it feels. And I'm fucking shocked that you don't care that people in your chat are saying, "Who the fuck is this child? Cold, arrogant, kind as fuck."
I love you, but there's
Don't you
only so
moderate?
much I
And
can
how
do.
can you be surprised when your Discord is literally full of fucking?
Ethan, I love you, but there's only so much I can do if you're making that argument. You know that, right? Like, at a certain point, you're an adult, and the words that you're saying are going to be perceived by people in a certain way. I can't constantly tell my community to shut the fuck up, like,
well,
which I have,
listen,
and I think they should. But at the end of the day, it's because I know you personally, and I think your heart is in the right place. But they don't know, so it's hard. It's hard for people to view what you're saying beyond.
This is after weeks. I'm pretty sure this is either after a week or weeks of his fan base. Like, there's like 4 anti-fan subs. It's like H3 underscore productions. There's the H3 Snark. There were like 3 or 4 anti-fan subs that were running. Not to mention that just the original, the actual H3 sub was getting fucked. The actual H3 productions, not the H3 underscore productions one was getting fucked. Like, Ethan was enduring so much insane shit over really nothing. Right? Like, Ethan has the most milquetoast takes. It's like, yeah, Palestinian people dying are tragic, and yeah, Israeli people dying are tragic. And people are like, what? Why are you a fucking Nazi? You fucking rat Jew? What the fuck? And it sounds like, bro, you gotta sound like a rat Jew.
I'm telling you,
Some of these coming from Hassan's own mods.
Perspective. You disagree. That's it. I mean, what the fuck do you want from me?
Okay, but do you get where I'm coming from?
Also, you know what? Fuck. I have the reputation as being a bridge burner. Between Hassan and Vosh, these motherfuckers have burned down like more important connections and shit over the past year than I have in like fucking 10 years, okay? These guys, like, my bridge burnings and shit are usually like random fucking crazy, you know, smaller streamers or like Bad Bunny and shit like that. Hassan lost a podcast with one of the largest podcast people on the internet. Vosh is literally alienating himself from the entire fucking world. How the fuck am I the one with the bridge burning reputation? What the fuck?
He fucking threw me to the flames, posted a fucking Twitter, a fake tweet, said that, you know, we are so privileged, actually, which he's right, we are. Something that I also agree with.
I think I'm right.
He just said it was out of context, farmed me regardless, moved on to be like, look how nice I am. And then fucking flipped it over to something entirely different and sold a fucking Rocket Mortgage ad in the process. What do you think of Asmund? I didn't even watch it. I didn't watch any of it. It's irrelevant. It's gonna be fucking go away in like 2 days. And people, like, only the dumbest losers of all time will constantly be like, oh, are you having a hard time at your job? Over and over again. Don't make him responsible for an already trending subject. It's kind of lame, I'm gonna be honest. Because every new video that fucking gets uploaded like this feeds into it over and over again. And if you're gonna fucking talk about it, the least you can do is, like, you know, be like, this is ridiculous. Yeah, same goes for all the fucking, oh, I'm so privileged, ooh, streamers too. Because we are, and I do talk about that.
Of all the trend setting you've done as a streamer since 2011, Burning Bridges is the only one you're given credit for. True.
Yeah. Really crazy. Every time this happens to other streamers, you are the first to stand up for them. When it comes to you, people just farm and kick your back in. You go out of your way. It doesn't matter. Fuck it. Who cares? All right. That'll be all for tonight, ladies and gentlemen.
It's extra funny because Lud and I did a roundtable for Anthony Padilla's new show where we talked about how we think streamers are out of touch and how privileged and lucky we are for like 2 hours only 2 weeks ago. Hasn't been released yet. Would have been nice for him to be like, hey guys, by the way, Hassan is my friend. Obviously he doesn't think streaming is the most difficult job in the world.
A lot in your fucking chat. Like, whenever your chat was, like, calling me out or whatever, and I talked about this even before, like, the tier list drama or whatever, which I don't really give a shit about the tier list in that circumstance. But I had talked a week prior.
Oh, I remember this. This was when Hassan was mad because XQC. Did he put him on the same tier as me, or did he put him 1 tier lower? Oh my god. Bro, when Hassan saw that, it was over. Tier list, there was like a 1 week period on Twitch where like tier lists were like the biggest drama instigators of all fucking time.
After that, there's clips of it. When mentioning Moon and NMP Lol, Asmongold, and all these other content creators, actually, you know, whipping their communities when their chat is going fucking absolutely bananas over random dumb shit and bringing my name up for no fucking reason. And I thought that for the past year, I thought for the past year, especially since like the gambling debate that we had, you, me, Trainwrecks, and Ethan, that you were just allowing that shit to run rampant in your chat, and I thought that was fucked up. Especially as someone who thought we were fucking friends. I think that's a reasonable expectation for someone who you consider to be a friend. That was building a lot in your fucking chat. Like,
Two more. Wow, football. Thanks for 25 star, buddy.
Kid, I want to stir up a bit of fucking interest.
Oh no.
Listen, see, streaming, hardest job in the world, harder than what I'm doing a coal mine. See all the people in coal mines right now across the world? Fuck them! Kid, I want to stir up a bit of fucking...
You should call Hassan and apologize. Why is Hassan mad? What did I do?
Oh no. His fucking fan.
What did I do? Because I'm a local male? I feel like everything I said is fine. Am I crazy? He's mad about the Dubai trip?
Hassan rated him and his chat was spamming about it.
Okay, well done.
He said call Hassan, he's crying unironically.
Hard for views? Oh, well, I mean, shit. That's the deal. I'll just fucking pull him out of the thumbnail, and then I feel like it doesn't really matter much, right? I can just pull him out. I feel like that's... Because I feel like outside the thumbnail, you can't really make that argument much. Here, check it out. Boom. That's a change on the fly, baby. Me and C-Dog VA. That's a funny picture. That's a funny picture along with that title. But I don't think the content of what I said is something I wouldn't say in public or to a person. Unless that's a problem. But look, I'm gonna deal with this off stream. I'm gonna deal with this right now. Why is C-Dog so short? It's because my boots make me 4 inches taller. Connor, thank you for the 20 gifted.
Thanks, Connor.
Bowers, thank you for 26 months.
Our gap to the car in front is 35.2 seconds.
Small is currently digging a cookie. Guys, I'm trying to talk about the intern. What are we doing here? What's going on?
We're going to box this lap, push hard on the inlet.
You respond to Four Thoughts of Dog Shit post. What is Four Thoughts post? Seems recently you've been kind of blowing up. Example of the Chris Morgan thing. Do you think it's the Israel-Palestine stuff? Were you blowing up before? No, I think it was before. The Israel-Palestine stuff was probably actually slowed down my ability to capitalize off the recent stuff. But we'll be around. What where's the Four Thought post? Idolization of Aaron Bushnell by leftists is totally expected and is completely acceptable. There is no evidence of having mental illness. He wanted to suicide to be as visible as possible, which is why I live streamed it. Explicitly repeatedly stated the cause that is for irrational extreme action are not mutually exclusive. This is not new. Do not fucking story point to, oh my god, he was in Bevan's chat, as if being in anyone's Twitch chat, podcast, or Patreon exclusive Discord will give you the desire to self-immolate. I'd say he was an idiot, was trying to take away this man's agency of the most trivial and frivolous shit. The suicide was an explicitly political statement. Expecting people that share his beliefs to not valorize him for the most extreme acts of peaceful protest and being committed beyond the not wasting time arguing with the students with evidence and now it's something like that. Wait, what? Is any part of this satire? Or I can't tell. Am I just... The idolization of Aaron Bushnell by leftists is totally expected and is completely acceptable. Do we think is it acceptable to idolize somebody who commits suicide for a political cause? Is that When we say acceptable, what do we mean there, guys? I mean, like, it's technically it's your life. I mean, if you really want to kill yourself, it's fine, I guess. But is it terrorism though? No, it's not terrorism. Ugh. Oh shit, what's this?
Okay, so let's widen the picture to the rest of the Middle East. Generally speaking, once again, you seem to blame economic geography for most, if not all, of the dysfunction in the region. I'm wondering how you interpret the success, notwithstanding the security concerns of Israel in that context.
Well, you know, the region overall, whenever you got an area that's dry desert, it's hard to have basic agriculture. And if you don't have agriculture, you never get small businesses, and you never move up into, say, manufacturing and industry. And so this region has always been left behind. The places where that is least true are the places where it rains. And that is Turkey, and that is Tunisia, and to a lesser degree Morocco, which are the three most economically advanced states in the region by any measure. The Israelis are unique in many, many, many ways. Mostly because when the Jews were brought back in the post-World War II environment, they brought a lot of skill sets that they had developed elsewhere over centuries with them, and a lot of capital, in addition to the strategic sponsorship of the West in general, and the United States in particular. And that gave the Israelis access to trade options that no one else in the region had, but they also started working with skill sets that no one else in the region had. And that's allowed them to build up a bit of a technocracy in a region that is known for anything but. You got this weird little pocket of service economy and high-tech manufacturing in a sea of something else. And it is because of the people, not because of their ethnicity, but because you've had, you know, a few million people who now call themselves Israelis who for generations lived somewhere else. It's a full-on graft. And it's part of the reason why North America and Australia are just so different from Europe. They took the skill sets that they originated in another place and applied them to Indian geography and made something new, for better or for worse. Now, maintaining the security of a little statelet like that under normal circumstances is impossible, because this region, the Levant specifically, has never been powerful enough to look after itself. It's never had the population density to generate a military force that can keep things at bay. And so it's always been at the whim of greater powers, whether those powers be the Turks or the Persians or once even the Mongols. Countering that, the forces of history and just the sheer demographic overbalance of the tiny size of Israel versus the huge heft of these other players requires a lot of really creative thinking. And what the Israelis have done, sometimes in league with outside powers, sometimes not, is one after another turn the countries that border them either into allies like Egypt, into security proxies like Jordan, basically has become a dependency, or break them. In the case of Lebanon, basically becoming a failed state, and I'd argue Syria is pretty close to that as well. It doesn't solve the broader problem of a partnership with those larger outside powers to prevent invasion, but it does give whoever is going to cross in from elsewhere the fact that they have to cross through these other areas first. So let's assume, for example, that the last country that occupied what is today Israel, Turkey, decided they wanted to come back. Well, first it would have to absorb Lebanon and Syria, and there's no one in Turkey who thinks that would be a lot of fun. So it's kind of a fire break
When
strategy.
he says the last country that occupied modern Israel, is he talking about the Ottoman Empire when he references Turkey, or?
I don't want to suggest that it's going to work forever, but it's working for now.
What are your expectations for the future of Israel, given the durability of the hatred of the surrounding Islamic cultures to varying degrees? What are their prospects from a security point of view?
There's the partnership angle, and then there's the internal angle. The partnership angle is well underway, and if it hadn't been for the Gaza war, we would probably already have a formal peace deal between the Israelis and the Saudis. Now, they have been cooperating fairly tightly for 15 years now.
But saying last country to occupy modern Israel even be a factually accurate. Well, that's why it's kind of weird, because like Israel annexed the Golan Heights, which technically Syria was holding on to, and then also the West Bank and Jordan and the Gaza Strip. But I mean, I guess it's a whatever. It's not a super thing.
There's a lot of Israeli forces that basically train the Saudis on their own equipment. There's a lot of intelligence cooperation on both sides, especially vis-a-vis Iran. I'm not suggesting that they agree on everything, but whenever the Americans have put official or unofficial sanctions on either country for human rights abuses, they turn to one another in order to play the United States off of whatever the issue happens to be, and then provide direct assistance to the other one in order to get what they want anyway. And it's been a fairly successful model so far because the Americans have not called them on it. So they've had a de facto alliance, I would argue, for at least a decade. And the question that has been up in recent months is whether just to make that formal. There's a generational split within Saudi Arabia about whether they should go formal and get something for the Palestinians as part of it, or just throw the Palestinians under the bus and make it official. And that is a conversation that is very much in play. So in terms of a security guarantor, Saudi Arabia can't play that role. But if the Israelis can flip Saudi Arabia to formally being on the same side as Egypt and Jordan and Morocco, and at least neutral like Turkey is, then you really don't have to worry about the Arab side of the external security threats. And that would be a significant victory, and I think that is now within reach, and I think we're definitely going to see that this decade. The Iranian problem isn't going away, but it's distant, and no one is thinking that there's about to be another Persian Empire that's going to expand out and occupy the entire region. The Iranians are too technologically inept at the moment to pull anything like that off. So, that's the problem for a different century. The internal problem, I think, is going to be more.
Can somebody cut me? At the very end of the video when the guy sets himself on fire and they extinguish him at the end and his body's rolling around a little bit on the ground? Can somebody cut me just like 5 to 10 seconds of that video and give it to me on a streamable that I can download, please? I need it for a game. Thank you.
More of an issue. The success of Israel owes more to itself than it does to American sponsorship. It is because you've got this highly educated population that has
I feel like it would be good for the... I want to quote tweet this. This one. It's funny to see how this one act of protest has caused all the most useless and cowardly people to writhe around in fits of obvious discomfort, desperately trying to minimize otherwise shit on it. So I want to do like that thing and like me when I writhe around in obvious discomfort and then it's the guy rolling around. That's what I need. I need that clip. It would be perfect, please. Doesn't roll around, he just kind of falls. I think after they put him out with his fire extinguisher, doesn't he roll around a little bit? Wait, let me recheck. He's not really rolling, he just kind of sticks there, huh? Listen, as a quick thing, these people deserve to be bullied, okay? You should not encourage people to set themselves on fire for shit like this. It's fucking unhinged, and it's fucking retarded, okay? This is not a noble thing. It's not a good thing. It's stupid. Why would you fucking do this? The reason why people do insane fucking protests like this, where you set yourself on fire, or you do hunger strikes or whatever, is because you literally have no other avenue to communicate your voice. There's either suppression of the media, or you don't, or you live in a dictatorship, or you're locked in prison under lock and key and you've got no way to communicate. This is when people resort to these measures because there's no other way to make your voices heard. Self-immolating in a democracy is the most retarded fucking thing you can do. It's like starving to death in a Baskin Robbins. What the fuck is wrong with you? Go vote. Go on social media. There's a billion other things you can do to make your voice heard. Literally nothing will change because this guy killed himself, other than there's one less retarded fucking voter in the world. Like, that's it. He's removed himself from the voting pool. If anything, the only thing he managed to do by setting himself on fire is hurt his cause by one vote. It's fucking retarded. Don't encourage people to do shit like this. It's stupid. Do you not feel like the news story would net him more than one voter at least? Is anybody changing their mind? Is anybody seeing this like, man, I kind of thought Israel was in the moral right to defend themselves from Hamas, but when that retarded 25-year-old Reddit anarchy poster set himself on fire screaming in that lively Twitter video, I'm kind of feeling differently about it now. Like, Wow. Maybe Israel should stop. Yeah, that's what I believe.
Okay, just 2 laps of fuel remaining now.
Also, don't you dare say rest in power. That's for black people only. He was black, okay, true. Okay, sorry. University Edward Noel. I try to face that every 6 months. Okay.
Mate, I know it's a podium, but come on, you can do better than that.
I grab my watch for Red Bull, and then we're just gonna keep padding our note stuff out, I think. Some guy emailed me yesterday, like 30 pages of like, I guess declassified communications between Sadat and Begin and his like administration and shit during the whole 73 to 79 era. What an interesting read. I don't know why I brought this up. It's not reading it to you on stream. What are you guys all typing for? Hello? Because of the emailer. Oh. Fuck you. Oh, I get it. Maybe. Sorry. I got this thing. We're in the future, guys. Look at how cute this is. Wait, I don't know why I brought you the physical thing. We can just look at it online. Look. Look, now when I'm traveling, I just have to plug in this one thing, and then look, you can put your... Look. Watch. Wait, let me show it. Load it up. Is this just something I just clicked? Look, on this one little thing, you can put your phone, you can rest your AirPods, and you can put your watch, and it charges all 3 of them at once. Look at how cute this is. Oh my god. Wait until you find out that about MagSafe portable charger. You can just slap on the back of your iPhone. Wait, what? MagSafe portable charger. Wait, you mean you could... Wait, do they make cases with like chargers inside the case? I just don't use my phone that often. Fuck, that is kind of base though. That is pretty cool. How much heat is generated from the mag charging shit? Is it about the same amount of heat that's generated like by USB-C charging? Official Apple cases. Official Apple iPhone mag case battery. There's a first party? No shot. I don't believe you. No, this is a separate thing. There was... The point of MagSafe is to protect against battery degen? How would it protect against it? Oh, does it draw power from that instead of the battery first or something? Give me your opinion on the errand stuff and the disagreements on the subreddit. What is the errand stuff? If the case says it comes with MagSafe, doesn't that just mean that you can magnetically charge through the case? It doesn't mean it has a battery in it, do you? Or does it? Sorry. Oh, Aaron equals Human Torch. Oh. What did this guy email me? Dear Density, I'm watching your program diligently. Unfortunately, I've heard many people talking to you on the program, but in my opinion, the sin by not addressing various issues. Therefore, I wrote this short essay regarding the Israel-Palestinian conflict. I must praise you that you seem to know a lot about the subject in your affair. I would like to start with the most basic, the simplest truth. The Israeli-Palestinian conflict is a story of tragedy. Tragedy occurs on both sides are right. I definitely understand the claims of Palestine. Too many area, you must understand about the claims of both sides, especially after 7/10. Like to highlight most of Israel's claims, I feel like my voice is not heard. I'll start by the Arab nation was once glorious, especially when Europeans were primitive centuries ago. Later, the Arab nation was ruled by the Ottoman Empire after its collapse. Okay, also, wait, hold on, I'm so sorry. I stayed up till like 6 a.m. last night, just reading some final things, padding out notes some more. Okay. Fuck, I need people to bounce off of, because I have to make sure I'm not super fucking wrong, because I don't want to be really cringe. I want to be really, really, really careful around this topic, obviously, because it's Finkelstein's parents, but I feel like Finkelstein, the invocation of the Warsaw uprisings, seems like one of the least appropriate and most disgusting links that you could ever draw to Hamas. And I'm trying to figure out if I'm missing information or if there are some events that I don't know that are like preceding things that I just don't have an understanding of. Because he does this, he leans onto two different things between the Nat Turner slave rebellion and the Warsaw Ghetto uprisings, and both of these seem unbelievably disgusting and wrong. It's disgusting in a moral equivalence, and it's wrong in that the comparison just doesn't work at all. The Nat Turner slave rebellion were slaves that were killing their slave owners and other civilians, to be fair, with like torches and fence posts. Compared to Hamas, who is, their leadership are millionaires at least. They're fighting with AK-47s and rockets. They're not currently enslaved. The level of organization, coordination, financial support. Nat Turner and his slaves were not getting aid from all over the fucking world and having an office at the UN dedicated to the management of their humanitarian issues. I don't understand how you can ever compare the Nat Turner slave rebellion to fucking Hamas. I don't understand that comparison. I don't even know the steelman for it. I can't even think of a good steelman for it. That was the first thing. And then the second thing is the invocation of his parents apparently fought in the Warsaw Ghetto Uprisings. I have like the general knowledge of World War II, I guess, that you get in America, that I guess Germany and Japan were the bad guys, and supposedly Italy was in there somewhere. I don't know what the fuck they did. And they died to America glorious and Britain glorious, and the Soviet Union had a lot of people die too, I guess. That's like my overall thing. So I don't know much about like the individual uprisings, the individual fighting or whatever. I've heard this said a few times before. I think by Finkelstein, maybe other people. I've heard this said a few times before, where it's like, yeah, the Jews engaged in like terrorism, and do you think that would have been bad for the Jews to fight against the Nazis and blah blah blah? So I looked up the specific like the Warsaw Ghetto Uprising. If I'm not misunderstanding it, the fighting stopped when most of them had already been shipped off to fucking death camps. The things that they fought against were the SS coming in to take them to the death camps. And like, I think, was it 40,000? Is that too many? Got killed by the SS officers coming in to murder them? Or if they didn't get murdered, they're gonna be shipped off to death camps. What the fuck is the comparison? I thought that when Finkelstein brought this up, because I don't have like the specific knowledge. I thought that it was like, oh, maybe like Jews were rebelling against like the, fucking Germany in 38 and 39 or in the 30s, and they fought it, blah, blah, blah. Am I missing events or something? Is there something that I'm not understanding? Because it can't be this bad. It can't be. There must be like events or something. Also, god damn, fuck. I gotta be very careful when studying nationalistic things in the future, okay? Because, damn, this is some wild shit. This is crazy. What was it? It was 50,000? I think was it 40,000 killed? Hold on, let me check. It was an insane amount of Jews that got killed trying to resist, and they knew they were dying too. This was a no hope resistance. They 100% knew that they were gonna die doing this shit, and they fought and they died. This is what was collected. But besides coming an estimated 56,000 Jews, this is what they had for arms: 7 Polish rifles, 1 Russian rifle, 1 German rifle, 59 pistols of various calibers, several hundred hand grenades, several hundred incendiary bottles. Hamas was literally fucking paratroopering into this isn't real, but was literally parachute flying in to the fucking southern Israel to go and kill people. What the fuck? How do you ever make this comparison? How do you ever compare the Jews like last stand in fucking Warsaw to the fucking Fortnite school bus droppers? What the fuck are these comparisons? Am I missing something? It just seemed wild. It just seemed wild. Oh, and there was this quote. And nobody. It also is very. I'm extrapolating a little bit, but also apparently nobody really gave a fuck about helping the Jews in World War II as well. What was the? It was in these. There was like it was like 60 pages of like declassified material. I just read through all this stuff. It was so interesting listening to Dayan. And Begin and the U.S. president and everybody, like the conversation back and forth, interesting. But it was interesting seeing a few of the comments we read up. Fuck, I'm trying to think of what this was. What was this guy's email to me? I'm not gonna be able to find it. Fuck. No, it's has attachment. Oh, it was this, maybe? Nope, it wasn't this. I'm not gonna be able to find it. I'm not gonna find it. I'm not gonna find it. PhD candidate. What was it? Oh, fuck. It was a throwaway comment. I think Dayan made a comment about how, like, something to do with begging Hungary to, like, bomb the... It was to bomb the train tracks leading to... what was the name of that concentration camp? I want to say Trinidad. It's not that. Fuck. I need to remember. I'll remember these names. I won't remember. I have the notes with me. Oh, Treblinka. I wish I could find this quote. I'm not gonna be able to find the quote. I'm not gonna be able to find it. What did this make me know? He said PhD, and he had attachments to the email. Did I trash this in anywhere? Can you see that? Studying. Maybe he said studying. Oh. Who's this? Oh, this wasn't Diane. This was Begin. Begin. Begin? 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 Begin. Begin or Begin? I took note of it, and when my turn to respond arrived, I said the following. I wish you to know that the Jewish people are united today more than ever before in Israel. I especially noted the unity of the American Jewry, because for a Romanian ruler, the American Jewry position is decisive. I added that this also applies to Jews in Britain and France. They are all united around us. I continued and said, you know very well what happened in 1944. Your Transylvania was within Hungary, and we requested that the British bomb the railroads that led to Auschwitz. Thousands of airplanes bombed all kinds of strategic targets, but refused to bomb those railroads. Nobody helped us. This is why the Jewish people are ready to face all dangers. I wanted you to know that, but if your scenario will be realized because of our policy, that means peace with security. Then it is a disgrace to that particular country, and we shall stand tall for our rights. The back and forth negotiations. All of this stuff is so interesting. This must be published somewhere. Oh, this is way longer than 6. This is like 180 pages. Anyway, okay. I don't think there's any idea from this site. I don't trust anyone who uses the term Jewry. It's a weird word, but there's kind of like a lot of words in this region that's a little bit weird. It also feels weird as an American to say Arab. It feels racist. Or to say Arab people or Arab states. It feels kind of weird. But I mean, like, I guess in like studying this region, everything is just like, it's just more common. Makes sense.
Okay, well done. That's 3 clean laps in a
Oh,
row.
you think you're an expert then? What's the capital of Jordan? J. Sorry. There must be no, sorry, fuck. We gotta do US history. Fuck! All the history shit is so much more interesting. I hated history before. All the characters, all the people involved are just like super, I don't know, I think they're super fascinating. And because the history is so recent, like World War II and onwards is like relatively recent. It's not like Roman shit from like 400 years ago. Another group of boom, boom. plan on getting a World War II to start. No, we can't. I can't do broad stuff anymore because it's way. How many months have we spent on this? It's like too much. I've got to do like smaller chunks. Oh, I thought there's not this back and forth. It's also interesting because like when you read like I feel like they just have more personality. I don't know why, but I feel like in history classes, all of the leaders and all the conversations just seem so fucking sterile, or they just seem so boring. Like the president is like, oh, and then for the freedoms of our people, we must do these things. Like everybody speaks like a poet or whatever. Oh, this is kind of funny. I think these are secret. These were, let me check, top secret meetings between, I think this is Begin and Carter. It must have been, right? The main thing is that Assad and Sadat are ready for peace, and it's only proper to hold on to this opportunity. His opinion is that peace treaties with adequate international guarantees will not only fortify the peace, but will strengthen Israel's security as well. Syria has constantly been like trying to get roped into a lot of these peace deals, and it's always kind of been there, but kind of not or whatever. I said nothing about Hussein. Oh, but one of the big contentions around the Egyptian peace treaty is Israel doesn't want to recognize the PLO. PLO doesn't recognize Israel's existence. Israel doesn't want to recognize the PLO. There's a huge like thing about this like stuff like, no, fuck the PLO. We don't want to recognize them, blah, blah, blah. I said nothing about Hussein because I know that you have better relations with him. But I also know that his participation in the Geneva Conference is tied to the issues of territories and the Palestinians. There is a good atmosphere for convening the Geneva Conference, but one basic issue is lacking, namely the participation of the representatives of the Palestinian people, and specifically of the PLO. This is Begin talking. Or no, this is the president talking, sorry. The participation of the representatives of the Palestinian people, and specifically the PLO. It is true that the PLO resorts to various forms of struggle that might be considered as unacceptable. These are similar to an organization that you were involved in Jerusalem during the British mandate, and then Begin's response of, I was very involved, ... Because Begin was the leader of the Irgun, which was like the terrorist fucking arm, essentially, in fewer words, of like the, I don't know, that back and forth is right. I know, it's necessary to relate to the PLO as an organization that attempts to reach for 3 million people. Good names. Okay. Boom, boom. Non-contradiction is back. What do you want? Hello, hello?
Hello?
I have something.
You hear me, Destiny?
I can hear you loud and clear. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. I'm just gonna turn off the video stream so I don't have an echo. So I think we should continue what we left off with last time. Do you remember?
No. What was the last topic we left off on?
We were discussing the relative impact of religion.
No, I'm not
versus-
interested. Do you have a different thing for me? We could do that, but I don't, there's no way that you're selling me on this whole other thing in one day.
Oh, but I forgot to bring up so many good points, and it was like...
Yeah, but even the few that I fact-checked
I was shaking my head that I didn't even bring that up. You said in 48. You said in 48.
Wait, just to be clear, there's no way that with quotes you're going to rewrite my whole understanding of this conflict in like one conversation. It's not worth my time to do this. If you want to do this on the first, we can do it on the first or second.
Did you give me 5 minutes to try?
No. I would rather spend 5 minutes on literally anything else. There's literally any other thing I can talk about.
Okay, we were just having a discussion in the chat about Human Rights Watch and these other organizations and whether the fact that they devote so much attention to...
Yeah, I actually thought that was a good point you brought up. I wrote that down. I'm probably going to bring that up. Or I'm probably going to rope that in somehow. International criticism of Israel is highly disproportionate compared to its population and number of people affected would be.
Highly disproportionate is an understatement.
Okay.
It's like they're treating Israel like they're a population of 4 billion people.
Sure. Anything else?
Well, initially I really wanted to discuss the religious component because you were saying that in the recent years it became more religious, but it used to not be.
As much.
But, huh?
Yeah, as much. I just don't think it was a major factor.
But you could see even from the beginning with, Haji Amin Hussein, he was the most prominent leader in Palestine at the time. That guy was explicitly religious, and all his things were rants against Jews. I mean, I don't see how you get European colonialism as his animus versus
Sounds great.
anti-Jew.
Listen, on the first or second, we can chat about it, okay?
On the what?
On the first or second, we can chat about it, okay?
I'd like to ask you. So let's say Finkelstein, and to support his claims, he starts teeing off lists of organizations that agree with him. What are you gonna say in response?
I've got two counters to this. So one is, I think I feel pretty comfortable right now going through the individual things. So ethnic cleansing is a stupid term that's never been applied in anywhere beyond Yugoslavia, where the Bosnians were committing genocide. There's a part of that. So I think ethnic cleansing is a stupid term. Open air prison or concentration camps are dumb terms. I could bring up living conditions of the people in the Gaza Strip. These are nothing even. I would ask him which concentration camp does he think most closely resembles the conditions in the Gaza Strip. Apartheid.
The living conditions in the Gaza Strip are actually were higher before October 7th than the average Egyptian.
Than the average, Arab state, for regional comparisons. For apartheid, I think these are dumb. I'm prepared to argue with this more explicitly if he wants to dive into it. And then if he does want to lean in heavily on those, on the Amnesty International's Human Rights Watch and UN resolutions, then I'll also have a section in another part of the conversation where it's, okay, well, if you're going to accept all of their condemnations against Israel here, you also accept their condemnations against Hamas in regards to this, and this. Because I don't think, for instance, that he accepts, for instance, I just said for instance 30 times, I don't think that he accepts that Al-Shifa Hospital was utilized by Hamas. I don't think he accepts that. But Amnesty International has a whole exclusive report on Al-Shifa Hospital in 2014 after Protective Edge. So why would he accept Amnesty International's ruling there, but not accept it there, but then accept it when it comes to critiquing Israel? Or why would he accept parts of... Yeah, go ahead.
Here's the issue with that. Because he's going to say, okay, I accept that, but look at the relative weight of Amnesty's condemnations on Israel versus Hamas or any other group. He's going to say it's overwhelming, and he would be right in saying that because Amnesty devotes almost all their time on Israel.
Sure,
so
but then I mean we can go
they
through
reported here and there.
Yeah, but then
Hamas,
but then the next question would be okay, well, what do we do with an Amnesty International, Human Rights Watch, or whatever condemnation? I think we can both agree. Well, okay, well, if some Israeli soldiers or somebody was committing a war crime, they should be held accountable, and then you just move on from there. Just because Amnesty International does a report and says oh, well, a lot of civilians might have been killed or some Israeli soldiers acted improperly, that doesn't mean that you get rid of an entire country. That doesn't. There's no what is the follow up to that if he brings that point up?
I think he should somehow bring in just how lopsided these organizations are vis-a-vis Israel versus.
Okay,
any
listen.
other country.
Okay, listen. I understand what you're saying. Okay, and I understand. I think that there is a world. I think that your argument isn't horrible, okay? But Finkelstein's primary method of debating is to lean in really heavily on all of these things. So there's two ways rhetorically that I can maneuver in the conversation. The first way is to say, well, listen, here's all the reasons why those things are biased, okay? But the problem is that, okay, well, if I say all of his things are biased, and then I'm going to cite the Israeli Counterterrorism Institute or the IDF, well, now it just looks like we're just playing my source versus your source. That's one way I could do it. I don't think that's necessarily the worst way to do it, and I probably would rely on a lot of IDF reports over things coming out of Amnesty International. I think you can make good arguments for that. But rhetorically, I think that puts me way too into the opposition. What I would rather do is say, okay, well, you've got these Amnesty International, Human Rights Watch, whatever reports. That's fine. We can accept parts of these conclusions. We can analyze other parts of these conclusions, but we also need to equally apply them when they're critical of Hamas, and we need to ask why they're not more critical. For instance, of people in Syria. If 10x the number of people, 20x the number of people have died in Syria where they're using chemical warfare, why would there be no reports on Bashar al-Assad as opposed to how many reports on Netanyahu or Sharon? Why is there so much to speak of the Gaza Strip, but where is all the condemnation of the Houthis, of all the people actually dying of malnutrition in Yemen, right? I would rather go into his world and use the sources and facts that he has and then fight on his battleground than to just say no, I reject all of that. I'm only going to go by the IDF because I don't think there's any good conversation to be furthered there, and I don't think that his audience or anybody in the middle would find my arguments very convincing. So I understand what you're saying. I'm not saying. Yeah, go ahead. Just
before I respond, do you know did Lex tell you what the topics are, or it's just going to be flowing?
It's going to be relatively flowing, but it's going to be a 4 to 5 hour conversation, so it's going to be really comprehensive.
Right. So when you say I'm going to rely on IDF, you don't even have to. For most of these stuff, the Amnesty International reports are not going to be for the history or
no, that's going to be modern conflict. It's going to be
more Benny Morris and
2008 onwards.
Let's say for the recent conflict or for their things on apartheid, where they go where they're as observed as saying that Israeli Arabs are under apartheid, despite the fact that by any objective measure, Israeli Arabs have more civil liberties than any other Arab in the Middle East. And these are the only people, the only country in the entire world that they called apartheid. I mean, at some point, you have to like take a step back, because there's the volume of Amnesty or UN Watch or the UN Human Rights Council's condemnations on Israel are going to dwarf whatever their condemnations are on Hamas on any topic. So if you're going to point out something bad Hamas did with any of these organizations or the UN orgs, he could come back 50-fold on you with the same strategy, and he would be in the right there, because there are like 50-fold.
Yeah, but
number of
so
reports.
okay, so if you're having a casual debate with somebody and you reference a document, so let's say that we're arguing over whether or not guns are safe, or whether or not more guns in the United States are good, and somebody references, oh, well, this study says they are, okay? That would be a legitimate appeal to authority. You're referencing a study. The study purports to claim a particular thing. It's done by a reputable institute. That's an okay appeal to authority. But if you're going to have like a 5-hour debate with a person and you're going to contend with the studies, the person can't simply reference the study. The person needs to be able to talk about the underlying material of the study. I would hope that because of my knowledge on the subject, and it should be for Finkelstein and the other two people, for their knowledge, for I keep wanting to call him Rabin, Finkelstein's partner, Rabbani. It's not Rabin. Rabbani. For Rabbani and Morris, for Benny Morris, all of the subject matter we should all be familiar enough with to not just say Amnesty International. That would be, at that point, I believe, a fallacious appeal to authority. If somebody says, well, Amnesty International says this, and I go, okay, well, I disagree with it because of that or that, you need to be able to justify why the Amnesty International report is good. You can't just fall back on it. If Norm fancies himself to be an expert, or if Rabbani fancies himself to be an expert, then he should be familiar with the underlying stuff, which he should be, and then we'll just argue on that ground.
I'll make two things regarding that.
Go.
First, I think appeal to authority is a very good use. When you appeal to authority, you're usually appealing to something that has some credibility with everyone. Like usually when people hear UN, they think credible. But my point is that this is not the case. The UN is not some impartial body. The UN is just consists of the member states, and whatever the majority of them want, that's what they'll do. So when he starts listing as supporting, let's say, supporting his claim of apartheid, if he starts listing the UN or the reports in the UN or Amnesty International, he can use those. They will back him up.
I understand what you're saying. I'm just saying that with more underlying familiarity, I think that it's possible to say, like, well, let's talk about the actual underlying stuff. So if he wants to lean in really heavily about, like, well, if the UN is charging them with apartheid, then they must, be an apartheid state, then I would simply ask, do you think South Africa was apartheid? And if he sees the trap, obviously, well, now he's going to have to talk about, like, okay, well, fine. South Africa was obviously apartheid. That's what was created. That's what it was called. And yes, I understand not a single person in South Africa was ever actually charged or convicted with apartheid. And the country itself wasn't even actually held accountable under the Apartheid Convention or anything. But this is why that doesn't, right? At that point, he has to navigate the conversation. Like, the ball is in his court. Again, I think it's better to move there than to just say, like, oh, well, I don't trust any of the larger bodies. It looks bad, I think.
Yeah, I think you should have at some point bring in just how ludicrous the disparity is, just to show that these.
I can reference it, but you have to understand. I understand what you're saying. Okay, you're not hearing. You're not hearing.
I do. I am hearing what you're saying.
Yeah, it looks bad to say that I don't trust any of these bodies. It makes you look crazy. You lost the debate if I come and say, like, I don't trust. Especially look at the names of these places. I don't trust Amnesty International. I don't trust Human Rights Watch.
If you looked at the PowerPoint and just looked at the number of resolutions on country Israel versus any other country, you would immediately see that this is not looking crazy to make the point that something very weird is going on over here. That's first. Second, I saw Finkelstein, a lot of his things when he argues with people, I think it was with Dershowitz one, and he always goes with, oh, he's not just disagreeing with me. He's disagreeing with Amnesty. He's disagreeing with Human Rights Watch. He's disagreeing with the UN. He's disagreeing with and it lends an air of credibility just by listening out these organizations, because the average person thinks, oh, this sounds like a human rights organization. This sounds like UN, so it sounds credible, and it lends an air of credibility in and of itself. Therefore, if you don't touch on the aspect of
I
how these
said I would touch on
organizations-
it. I'll bring up the disparate treatment, but that's it. I can't. I'm not. That's just not my strategy. I'm not doing it. You're not convincing me of this. If you want to do
Do
that,
you
and
s-
you're, I'm not gonna. I'm not gonna
have
try
you
to.
s-
Yeah,
Have you spoken to Morris, or
a little bit in email, but not extensively. No.
you're not like you didn't like discuss how you're each gonna do
No,
it?
I have no idea what his fucking. I don't even know if he cares much about debates or anything. I truly have no idea. He just seems like a happy.
He's doing it by video.
No, we're all flying to New York tomorrow.
Oh, what time is the thing?
On the 29th.
No, what time of the day? Like when is it airing?
I don't know. When the debate? I don't know. Sometime on the 29th. But it's not live.
Okay,
so.
so yeah, okay. So when after your thing after the 29th, when do you want to have this discussion on religion?
Maybe the first or second.
Okay.
But if you want to be prepared for that conversation, it's not a big. If you want to convince me that religion is like a major factor, you have to show me. It can't just be quotes. It can't just be the weaponization of religion to make people feel a type of way or whatever. You've got to show me where people are acting in a unified manner in the interest of their religion in a way that supersedes their national interest, and it's not just like something that's along for the ride. I'm not going to deny that everybody in the region is Islamic, or that like Islamic rhetoric or whatever might play into things. I just don't think that it was primarily a religious conflict. I think it was a geographic one. I think the religious shit is something that goes along with it. But the same way that if a bunch of Nazis came into a building that were all 6 feet tall and they started like beating up people, that you might start to hate people who are 6 feet tall. I don't think that you're hating people because they're 6 feet tall. It's just all the Nazis happen to be 6 feet tall. All the people in the region happen to be Arabs. If they were Christian, or if the Jews coming in would have been some other fucking religion, I think that even other Arabs, I think it's possible that like the same conflict could have played out. That's just my opinion. I could be wrong on that, and if I am, you need more than just like, oh well, this quote from this leader where he said this about jihad. And I was like, okay, well.
No, and I'm going to argue religion. I'm first and foremost saying in religion in the sense that the Jewish aspect of it is a central role in the hate and the interest of the Arab countries against Israel.
I think
that's
I
the
partially
first point.
agree, but when you say like Jewish aspect, what do you mean by that?
I mean, if it wasn't Jew, it was like with your example last time. If it was white Arabs who came into the land, this conflict would not be a conflict. And if it was a conflict, it would be a conflict the same way of attention as the Sudan conflict has attention.
Yeah, I understand
That's
what you're
I mean.
saying. I think that, like, I think them being Jews matters just in that, like, the reputation of Jews at the time would have made it more humiliating for the Arabs. I just don't think that that was as religiously centered.
No, and that for the Muslims, it's and
Religious
also
I understand, yeah.
the fact that they're Muslims and they can't lose Muslim land that was once theirs is also a central feature, and it's not just modern day with Hamas. This goes way back, and it was always. And if you look at the religiosity of the masses in any Arab country, actually the ironic thing is, the only place in the Middle East where the masses are not highly religious is Iran, but there you have the leadership which is highly religious. In the other countries, it's the flip of that. You have the masses that are highly religious, but usually the leadership is either secular or pretend religious, like MBS.
Gotcha. Okay. Listen, find it. You can
Okay.
find all the data you want for this. We can argue about it later. Yeah. Anything else?
Don't forget about the
Yep, I've added it.
inconsistency of these organizations.
How do we feel about the so many examples of this, but one being that in the Lebanese civil war, when the Green Line was formed in the mid-70s, the Christian Palestinians went over to West Beirut to be with the Muslims, and the Christians, like the Phalangists, went to the east. So, like, it was very clearly on national lines, even though this was generally seen as a very highly religious sectarian conflict between Christians and Muslims.
Yeah,
but
I
because
did
they were
say last
Palestinian, the
time.
Christians went with the West.
Yeah, I did say last time that Lebanon was unique in the sense that it didn't break down like the other Arab countries, because first there was a significant Christian population, and second, yeah, I did say that last time that Lebanon.
But
might
why
be
would
a
Muslims fuck with Christian Palestinians when they're literally fighting a war with Christians?
Could you repeat
Because these
that?
were Muslims. These were west of the Green Line. These were Muslims mostly. It was Muslim. It was Shiites. It was Sunnis. It was Palestinians. Why did they fuck with Christian Palestinians when they were literally at war with Christians? Like people who were not too long prior considered dhimmis. Like within living memory, they were dhimmis, right?
Why would who fuck with them?
The Muslims in the west of the Green Line in Beirut. Why would they fuck with Christian Palestinians when they're literally fighting a war with Christians, if not for like the fact that nationalistic interests superseded religious ones?
Oh, I'm never making a claim that there's not inter-Arab conflict, or my claim was that precisely that there is a ton of Middle Eastern conflict that has nothing to do with Israel, and that's another reason why it's so obvious that when you have all these conflicts and all these deaths, and you don't have 5 months of intense activism around the world about it, and you only have it when the country of Israel is specifically involved, that tells you something.
Well, yeah, but the country of Israel is also the one. The country of Israel. The country of Israel is also the one that's the most like white identified, Western identified, like colonial project that everybody is like looking at too, right?
But I think that as a motivating factor might work for the leftists that march arm in arm, but that's not what is motivating the Arabs that are marching, or the Arab public opinion in the Arab world, or the Arabs that live in the West. But you said we're going to debate this then, so
sure. I also feel like there's a lot of like I feel like a lot of the inter Arab conflict or inter-Muslim conflict is also motivated by Western stuff, right? Like in terms of like, for instance, like the Iranian-Saudi conflict and the axis that that's developed on, seems like it's informed a lot by Saudi Arabian allegiance to the United States versus Iranian allegiance to, more of the East.
Yeah, I'm not saying that because of the situation in Israel that other things don't matter. Of course, natural resources matter to them. Geopolitics matters.
But it seems like that also transcends religious stuff too. So, like for instance, if Hamas is like a Sunni organization, but they've got the support of Iran, which is the fucking Ayatollah, very Shia. Like it seems like the nationalistic and the geographic stuff all supersede the religious stuff.
It's actually the hatred of Israel supersedes all the inter Muslim disputes, whether it's Sunni, Shia. Like that's the only thing that you will unite on, which kind of tells you something.
Well, but they're not all united on it. Only the ones that stand in opposition to U.S. interests are united on it, right? Everybody else is like pretty chill with.
No, there's a reason why even the Arab countries that the leadership is at peace with Israel still has to mouth condemnations of Israel every day.
I agree. Yeah, there's a lot of weird.
None of them, except for the UAE, would even condemn October 7th. That's how much the population has a grip on them.
Yeah, sure. I don't disagree with that. Yeah. Okay. What's up, Loner Boner Box? Wait, non-carter, did you do anything else for us, or?
I wanted to continue this question after you do your debate on this first or second.
Okay, first or second. Whenever I come back, I'll drag you up. All right.
All right. Thanks.
What do you want, Boner Box?
I thought you were asking for me. Someone in my chat said that.
Oh.
They said you were crying.
I'm always crying. How you doing?
How are you?
I'm doing great. What have you been doing today?
I watched the Sean and Noah Samson videos. The full Noah one and some of the Sean one. Then I got bored.
How is the? I tried to skim through the Sean one, and I think I hit like 10 different checkpoints, and every single one is just talking about how evil Israel is. So.
Yeah, I mean the Sean one. At least here's one part where he describes Israel from '48 as a British colony, like established as a British colony, which is kind of weird.
Based, okay.
There's like kind
after
of
the
like
terrorist attacks, from after the Arab revolts from the Jews to the Brits, and the Brits saying "fuck this" and leaving, and blah blah blah. Yeah, okay.
There's a kind of like misunderstanding about there's a quote from Arthur Balfour where he's basically talking about, it's like the end of this sort of like 10 paragraph piece that he gives where he basically says that like part of the argument for the Jewish state would be that it'll stop like European countries from having to deal with immigrants, like Jewish immigrants who are like hostile and unfriendly. So then he kind of projects onto that like Balfour did the Balfour Declaration because he was like xenophobic, and then he invokes like Richard Spencer supporting Zionism as a way to get the Jews out, and he's going to make that comparison. But if you read the whole text of what Balfour's saying, and like everything else Balfour says, Balfour's whole take on Jews having to leave Europe to go to Palestine is because he believes that Europe and the Christian world had fucked over Jews so hard and made them homeless for so long, and treated them as lesser people for so long, that Jews like basically rightfully insulated themselves and didn't want to have any loyalty to those states going forward. And that's the argument he's making. He's making the argument that like Jews don't owe Europe anything. Like that's why he kind of saw Zionism as like Britain's way of repaying the Jews for like the wrongs of the Christian world. So yeah, it's just like context.
Okay.
Whatever.
Yeah, it makes
but it's
sense.
basically like innate of trying to say Zionism is anti-Semitism is like kind of one of those lines that people like to push.
Gotcha.
The Noah one is just him repeating the South African court case, basically.
I still haven't read that. I have to tonight, or I might read it on the
I
flight
mean-
tomorrow. Do you think is there any? I heard one thing about, because this would be worth it rhetorically, that a lot of the quotes are actually clip chimped in the South African ICJ submission. Do you know if that's true? Have you gone through any of the quotes?
Yeah, I said that to you. Yeah.
Oh, you're one of the people that said that.
I
I've had a
told you
lot
that
of people
last
email
time,
me to say this.
They're very clip chimped. I mean, some of them, like the Amalek one is clip chimped. The fucking human animals one, I think, is clip chimped. Yeah, there's a few of them that are just very much like in the paragraph literally before and after one of those. They specify Hamas. They say we are fighting Hamas.
Yeah,
like,
I've
always
seen
big
those. I
on
remember
that.
looking those up at the time, like months ago. Yeah.
And obviously, you know the Amalek thing about how like people say Amalek is like because in the religious text about Amalek they actually talk about killing all the women and children, right? Like that's like
I've heard the
implication
Amalek thing
there.
get caught up a lot. Yeah.
But it's also just another thing of like it's the literal meaning of a word or how the word is actually used, because Amalek has been used in like Holocaust memorials. It's like there's do you know the Amalek monument in The Hague?
Nope.
In the Hague, like where they have the fucking ICJ and shit, there is an Amalek monument with the Star of David and like some people, and it's underneath it says, "Remember what Amalek did to you, never forget." And it's in the fucking Hague. Like it's on one of the buildings. So it's like, are they? Is that why? Is there a monument in The Hague calling for a genocide of the Germans by calling them Amalek? Like no, it's just like that's how they use the term.
Gotcha. Okay.
It's like a never forget thing. Yeah. Anyway. The problem is that I'm pretty sure in like if you're submitting a case to a court, you do kind of have to throw everything against the wall and hope something sticks. So I don't blame like South Africa for having some weird shit in there that's not really going to fly, because all they need is like a few things that the court considers plausible, and they're obviously needing to make their opposition defend everything. So you probably would need to see the whole thing to see if there's anything in there worth keeping.
Sure. I will say though that I'm trying to think, at least for U.S. standards, I don't think you're supposed to just throw everything at the wall to see what sticks. You're supposed to have a good faith engagement with the court system, and it wouldn't. I'm speaking out of my ass, but I would wonder if you could get like either summary judgment or motion to dismiss in pretrial if somebody was including their complaint stuff that was like clearly fabricated or clearly taken out of context. I don't know if the case would stand on its merits if somebody was clearly false. I need more crim law friends. All of them are sellout corporate lawyer fucks. But I don't know if you're allowed to just throw in whatever. I used to think that prosecutions could do that in the U.S., and then somebody pointed me to a standard in U.S. courts where that's actually not true. The prosecution, at the very least, for criminal stuff, is supposed to behave in good faith. Like if you find exculpatory stuff, you have to turn it over to the defense. Or if you're like quoting stuff, or if you're citing evidence in a complaint or in an indictment, and you know it's not really that solid, that you can get in big trouble for that. Like a mistrial could be declared, or the case might get thrown out, or whatever. But ICJ obviously might be completely different. Everything. I don't know.
It might be permissible to gish gallop the ICJ.
It might actually be, yeah.
Yeah, well.
Okay, boom, boom, boom. Let's see. What have you been? Did you say you covered those two videos today, or was that yesterday?
Just today.
Okay.
Otherwise, I've just been reading little bits here and there.
Gotcha. Let me just run through this outline again. I think I need to fill out like 2 more sections of this, but let me see if there's anything else I might have questions about. Let me scroll from top to bottom. Oh, real quick for historical examples. So ethnic cleansing is a term that is used. Has it been applied to anything except for like Israel and Bosnia and Herzegovina or whatever the fuck? The Serbian has it ever been applied anywhere else? Because I saw people were bringing up examples of like, for instance, when Russia was attacking Ukraine, a lot of Ukrainians were fleeing cities, obviously because they didn't want to get killed. But people weren't calling that ethnic cleansing.
Yeah, I don't know. That one, I don't think so. I mean, Stalin did quite a few ethnic cleansings, right? Like the ethnic cleansing of the Crimean Tatars in '44.
Wait,
that was...
did Stalin do ethnic cleansings, or was this ethnic cleansing as like an overall thing that was like more akin to genocide than anything else?
No, the removal of the Tatars was just he deported all of them. He just deported all of them to fucking Uzbekistan on little trains. But that wasn't ever seen as a genocide, I don't think.
Were a ton of these people not killed? I don't remember for the Soviet shit if they were killed.
Like it wasn't the same as the people did die on the way, but I don't think it was the same kind of like intent that went alongside Armenia, for example. Yeah.
Do you think that Russia kind of moved around a lot of populations, right? Like I think the process is called I read for the Soviet stuff, and I think even pre-Soviet Union and the old empires or whatever, it was called Russification, where the Russian empires have always kind of like moved in a lot of their people, moved around a lot of other people to try to like get a stronger ethnic and linguistic and cultural grasp on whatever territory they had.
Yeah, it depends on who you're talking to. Like it was all different kinds of ethnic groups, like millions of them in total. Generally, people call it like I think in the Wikipedia they call it population transfer, but yeah, other people do call it ethnic cleansings.
I feel like
very much ethnic groups.
Transfer seemed to be the term that's used a lot. I don't know if I've seen ethnic cleansing besides like the last 20 years applied to Israel. It feels like everybody just calls it transfer, population transfer.
Yeah, transfer is like it's just a euphemism though, isn't it, for expulsion or like...
Well, the term ethnic cleansing like implies a lot. The reason I don't like ethnic cleansing is because the implication for ethnic cleansing is that based on an ethnicity, you're cleaning away like dirty people, which I think is a much different connotation than like population transfer relating to like times of war or conflict.
Yeah, or doing it for political reasons rather than like racist reasons, another thing, right?
Yeah, I would consider like part of conflict, like political reasons. Yeah, basically, yeah. That I feel like it's a much different connotation. Ethnic cleansing carries like heavy connotations of racial superiority or racial domination, I think. But it's a weird thing because I don't know if that's like ever applied to any other type of thing, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, people use it all the time for all the like Soviet movements, and people use it for but even people use it. I've heard people use it for things that they justify as well, right? For the Germans in the Sudetenland, like, and Poland and Central Europe, and pushing them back to Germany. People recall that in ethnic cleansing. So
I've never heard that before. And any of my studying of like any of the other stuff related to like Russia, Ukraine, I don't think I ever saw the term ethnic cleansing.
Maybe usually it's more of an activist term. Yeah, like it's mostly it's
that's like I think that's my point. Is that it's like an activist thing. What did I read initially? Was it actually like 12 to 14.6 million people? That's an insane amount of people. After World War II, Germans just like fled from a whole bunch of fucking territories and went back to Germany and then never got invited back, or?
Yep, millions and millions of them went. Some of them fled. Some were actually taken by the Nazis as the Nazis were retreating, and then the remaining couple, like 2 or 3, 4 million, were actually pushed back by the Allies. Quite brutally as well. Like quite a few people starved to death on the way. Do you know there are like center-left historians who justify it?
Really? How?
Not the way it was done, obviously, but they do justify the idea of having to transfer Germans from that area because their entire existence for like that whole period had basically just been weaponized as a as an excuse for Germany to annex things in the future, and they were very worried about like any re-emerging German state doing the same thing further down the line. And also, some of them had lived there for centuries, but the overwhelming majority of them were like proper fucking German supremacists. Like they had no interest in having anything to do with like an independent Czech Republic or an independent fucking Poland or anything like that. So, and that might have like, people argue that because of their position, they might have like fucked the stability of those states going forward. So yeah, people do try to say it had like some rationale behind it. Yeah.
So, so my edgy statement 2 months ago, I think, was true, that not all ethnic cleansings are bad. If ethnic cleansing is going to just be defined as population transfer without any, I do think I really truly do feel like if you were to poll in America, I bet it's the same in fucking Europe, but I think if you polled in America what ethnic cleansing meant, I think over 50% of people would heavily associate it with genocide, like actually killing people, not just, I think it would be over 50%.
Raphael Lemkin originally wanted it to be number 6 as the acts of genocide. He wanted ethnic cleansing, like removal, to be one of the acts, and the UN was like, no. So.
I know there was the huge, massive population transfer between Greece and Germany. But I'm sorry, not Greece and Germany. My bad. Greece and Turkey.
Yeah.
1923. I don't know like if any of this would ever come up, but it's just gonna have examples on hand. 1.6. Between Greece and Turkey. Somebody said population transfer between India and Pakistan. How many people was that?
Millions, like 7 million. Yeah.
7
Was it 7
million?
Wait, was it 7? I think it might have been 7 million on each side. 7 million Hindus leaving Pakistan and going to India, and 7 million Muslims going from India to Pakistan. Maybe? Or 7 million total. 7 million something.
16 million people? Holy shit! I don't know anything about Indian history. Anything further east of like really of Iraq. I don't know anything about it. For Iran, Afghanistan, Pakistan, and then India. Yeah, India is a whole thing on its own. Jesus Christ.
Yeah.
Okay, hold on.
I mean, I know one person who came from, like, their family came from Lahore in Pakistan, and they were Hindus, so they had to just abandon everything and go and set up in, like, fucking Delhi or whatever. Yeah, but yeah, that was it. Like, they just left everything behind, ran away, because, like, I think, like, 1 million people died, the ones who stayed in each respective country. So it was pretty messy. But yeah, the ones who live in India are Indians now, and the ones who live in Pakistan are Pakistani.
It's interesting. I looked up this partition of India for ethnic cleansing, and it's interesting that in the sources below, for ethnic cleansing, the citation for one book is a book published in 2012, and then the other two are citations of a book published in 2009.
It's hard because I don't know that much about partition of India, but like I think the flight was mostly because of just like mobs and like local riots. I don't think there was actually like any Indian or Pakistani regime trying to. I might be completely wrong though, but I mean, yeah, you could still call it that, I guess, because people like to use it loosely for other things. So
sure, I guess the one thing that I think is important is that because Israel is presented as like uniquely fucking horrible, terrible, bad in regards to the stuff in 47 to 48. Like ethnic cleansing is thrown around, the refugees, it's like uniquely, horribly a terrible thing. But it feels to me, I'm saying feeling because my world history is not the best, but it feels to me like it was actually fairly par for the course for whenever major conflict happened, that one, territory might change a little bit, especially in the case of wars, or two, that population transfer would happen after it, because people just like move massively from one area to the next in regards to conflict. But all of that, like nobody really talks about any of that. It just feels like I feel like if you were listening to people talk about Israel Palestine, you would think this is one of the only places in the world, except for maybe Bosnia and maybe with Hitler in Germany. It's basically it's the Serbs, it's the Nazis, and it's the Jews that have done ethnic cleansing, and everything else is more or less kosher. That's what it feels like. Yeah.
The second thought video I watched, he was saying that there's the Nakba's up there with the Holocaust. He
Based.
word for word basically said something like that. Yeah. It did happen quite a lot in the formation of nation states, right? I guess the difference is that the reason more attention is drawn to the Nakba compared to other ethnic cleansings is that most of these other ethnic cleansings or removals or transfers, whatever you want to call them, is that the people from Pakistan went to India and became Indians. That was it.
Yeah. Yep.
Whereas the Palestinian refugee problem is it's been kept alive. So that's kind of why.
Which plays into my other role of the refugee problem needs to stop being artificially prolonged by UNRWA. There has to be an attempt to settle people. There has to be an attempt to not keep people permanently in refugee camps to further the conflict. It makes it more and more intractable. As do the settlements from Israeli side and everything too. Yeah.
It's UNRWA, by the way, not UNRWA.
UNRWA.
But yeah, I mean, even I never make this point because it's just so optically stupid to say, but it's true. Compared to other 20th century conflicts, the 1948 war, and you can say this for both sides, was fairly low when it came to atrocities and just overall causing of suffering, right? Compared to World War II or compared to the Yugoslav wars and all that, both the Arabs and the Zionists, compared to those other wars, were a lot more well behaved when it came to taking prisoners and all that shit. Obviously, there were still massacres on both sides, and there were still half of an entire population uprooted, but yeah. Or you can also, I don't know, do you know about how the refugee problem, obviously, it wasn't just it was mostly an Arab refugee problem, but there were tens of thousands of Jews who were displaced as well during that war.
Yeah, they were all technically ethnically cleansed from the West Bank, right? That's part of, I think, where the Sheikh Jarrah controversy came from in 2008.
Yeah.
Was people fighting over hey, well, we were in East Jerusalem, we got kicked out by Jordanians, so we should be able to get this apartment and shit back.
Yeah, I mean, the West Bank was fairly lower numbers, but also just within Israel itself, people in settlements that were a bit further away from the main cities and were in, especially settlements that were surrounded by Arab villages. A lot of them got uprooted as well. The only difference, I guess, is that Jews didn't really have other countries they felt like they could go to, so they just had to kind of stay there and just take it and hope for the best, right? Yeah.
I will say it's really interesting going over the Israeli-Palestinian conflict. Maybe my mind is poisoned as an American, but when we think of World War I and World War II, I'm thinking oh my God, that's Dresden got bombed. What was it? I should know this. Is Dresden 60,000 people dead? How many people died in the Dresden bombings?
I thought the bombings was 25,000.
Maybe it was 25. Oh, fuck you. Okay. But
Siege of Leningrad, you got 1.5 million.
Yeah, holy shit, yeah.
Dead,
or the fire bombings of Tokyo, that one might have been 60,000 or 70,000. But yeah, and then the bombings in Nagasaki, I'm thinking tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands, all these deaths, blah blah blah. And then it's just not to take away from the human suffering or say that any of this is okay or to excuse any of it, but it's just really interesting that when you read about the massacres that happen between Israel and Palestine, one of the most famous massacres, at least for the early history, is Deir Yassin, if you consider that a massacre, right? The Deir Yassin massacre is isn't it it's 100 people dead, right? Which is bad. It's not good, but it's interesting how, I don't want to say low stakes, but it's interesting how small the numbers are in this conflict. But again, yeah, when people talk about it, you might think man, Deir Yassin, I don't know, 10,000 Arabs must have been killed, or, this many people must have been getting holocausted, or this many people, but the casualty numbers for all of this conflict is surprisingly low given how much voice is given to this particular conflict.
Yeah, because the only two arguments you can make that really make it more, that kind of amplify it a little bit, is that at least for the Arab side, even though 700,000 is as a proportion, that was half of the Arab population in Palestine. So in terms of understanding the collective trauma and the inherited family suffering and all that kind of stuff, it spread throughout the entire community basically, because everyone knew someone who had been displaced.
Sure.
And the other argument, I guess, is the UNRWA thing, they're still going. But it's funny that people will they'll oppose the NATO intervention in Yugoslavia when, again, how many Kosovar Albanians were displaced during that war? It was about 800,000, right? Yeah. And then like the Bosnian War, like you had like Srebrenica, where 8,000 people were killed in the space of what, like 2 days, fucking rape camps and shit like that. So yeah, I feel like a lot, definitely from the last 2 videos I watched, they're very much like, it just looks like people, that fucking Noah Samson video, it looks like it's just someone who's seen a war happen for the first time, right? They're just like,
yeah, exactly, yeah,
and
and
that's
even
just how
like,
they're processing it, yeah.
and even what people like pay attention to, and what people even, I feel like even on the Palestinian side, I'm curious, and I could be totally wrong because I just only see it. I'm almost qualifying that because maybe there are places we'll talk about this way more. I feel like for Palestinians, when I look on Twitter, like everybody knows like Deir Yassin. Everybody knows the Nakba. I don't think I've ever in my entire life seen like a Palestinian bring up like the Sabra and Shatila stuff. Shatila or Shatila in Lebanon. I don't think I've ever
they
seen
bring
that.
up all the time.
Do
That's
they?
really
Oh, okay.
common.
I've never seen that brought up on Twitter before by any Palestinian people. And that was actually like thousands of people dead, depending on whose numbers you take. So.
But what people, what I know Israelis get frustrated with this is because in the Lebanese civil war, Sabra Shatila was one of quite a few massacres that were just as bad. Like Tarantina, which was again, it was Christians killing Palestinians. That was about the same number. And Damour was one where the PLO murdered Christians, and that was like a few hundred as well. There were loads of massacres in the Lebanese civil war, but yeah, the one that we talk about mostly is Sabra Shatila because Israel was involved. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. I've got open air prison concentration camps. There is no definition of concentration camp or open air prison, right? These are just like totally.
That I know of.
Okay. Do you have any? I tried to follow this rabbit hole last night. Do you know how much Palestinian leadership is worth?
I've heard Abbas is about 100 million. I've heard fucking Hania ranging from anything like 400 million to 4 billion.
Yeah. So I tried to okay, this was the rabbit hole that I went down. It was very funny because I was going to include this, but now I don't know how I feel about this. I want to read. Can I do this? Rabbit hole. Okay. So there's a New York Post article that was cited by I think it was a Times of Israel post. Wait. Or it might have even been this. Wait, do you know what I-24 News is? The reputation.
I-24.
Yeah.
It's like Israeli right-leaning.
Is it? Okay.
I think so. I don't know. But it's Israeli. Right?
I truly have
think they're right-leaning. I don't know.
Let me see if I can. One of these websites basically was saying that collectively, the Hamas leadership is worth $11 billion. And I clicked the source. I was like, well, what is the source on that? And then that took me to a New York Post source. Hamas leaders worth a staggering $11 billion. And I'm like, okay, I'm curious how you would even know that, right? Like, how does anybody know the net worth of a black market smuggler Hamas leader, right? Assuming that's how they make their money, it's what my assumption would be, right? Then when I went through this, so a terror group's top 3 leaders alone are worth a staggering $11 billion. I see this picture here, okay? One of the sons of Hamas leader Ismail Haniya lounges in a luxury hotel suite in Qatar. Haniya is worth more than $4 billion, okay? These are big numbers, okay? $4 billion, okay? So I tried to scroll down through this. Abu Merzouk, 72, a senior Hamas political leader who heads its international relations office, is estimated by the Israeli government to be worth $3 billion. What's the next link that I clicked on this? Oh, fuck, I didn't click one. I tried to Google it. I tried to Google around for net worth. Oh, wait, maybe it was net worth Haniya.
Yeah, the estimates for him go quite wild, right? They go from like a few hundred million to 4 billion or some shit, yeah.
I'm not gonna goddamn find it. This shit was retarded. Oh, wait, it might have been this page. Hold on. Okay, there's a tweet by Embassy of Israel to the USA. I don't even know if this is the real embassy in Israel. Basically, yeah, it's kind of what you're saying. The ranges were more significant because I found a website that was saying Haniya was worth $4 billion and the other 2 guys were worth $5 million. And I don't know if it was a typo or if it's just like, I don't know if, is there any accurate...
I have no idea.
I'm sure they're wealthy. That seems to be obvious, but...
Yeah.
You know, fuck.
I mean, they basically live in hotels, don't they? They live in hotels in Doha, and sometimes they go to Turkey.
That is true, and not to flex my out-of-touch millionaire status too much, but like, I could stay at $900 a night hotels for an entire year, and that would be a whatever. It wouldn't bother me. But I'm not a billionaire. There's a huge difference between being like a net worth 5 million versus net worth 4 billion. That's a huge discrepancy. And it's just like if one of these leaders is worth like a couple million, like yeah, that's obviously probably corrupt, maybe I guess depending on age and everything. But like him saying like $900 a night hotels, that's not indicative of him being a billionaire. That's an insanely huge number. I'm just curious. What was the source of that? Fourth thought. What do you want? What do we? Oh, you think setting yourself on fire is an acceptable form of protest in a democracy?
Yeah. Why do you think it's not?
I feel like extreme acts like that, I think, should be reserved for when your voice is like literally being suppressed. Like you can't be heard. So like in a situation where you might be living under a dictatorship, you might be in prison, your rights are being restricted for some reason. Fourth thought is quiet. Yep, tell him to fix his mic. I don't know why. I don't know why. Tell him to fix it.
Yeah, but those are what you just said are reasons why it's bad for you to do it. Obviously, it's fucking stupid if you can do activism or boycott or whatever. But like, what if you just want to? What if you're just like retarded and you want to burn it?
Well, I mean, if you're retarded and want to do it, you can do it. But it's about it being like encouraged or supported. I think it's really scary that people are supporting an American citizen who lives in a democracy setting himself on fire for a cause. It just seems really silly. I think there's like other things. You should boost your volume by like 10 times. You're super, super, super quiet. Oh shit, like here's another tweet by the Israel MFA, the Israeli Foreign Ministry. Again, I'm not sure if this is actually them or just a random fuck account. Hamas leaders are lining their pockets at the expense of millions of innocent Palestinians. So we've got Khaled Mishal, 5 billion, Musa Abu Marzouk, 3 billion, and then Ismail Haniyeh, 5 million? Like, why is he even listed here? I just think it's kind of funny. Oh, gray check equals government account. Oh, that's nice. Elon?
I think Hania is like the leader of Hamas, right? Like the number one leader.
Right now, I believe that is yes.
Yeah.
Ismail. I don't think are you changing anything? What do people do when they say, is it still quiet, but nothing has changed? Do they realize? Are they just fucking with me? Are they turning random knobs on their desk and they hope that like something is happening, or?
Couldn't tell you. I mean, if I was really stupid, I could turn my monitoring up and think I'm turning myself up.
Oh wait, Khaled Mishal is famous for being a billionaire, by the way. That's been known forever. Oh, maybe. That was one of the guys where I tried to look him up, and they were saying like he has portfolios, including investments in tons of different like banks and everything as well. So maybe.
Michelle was the guy who was leader very briefly when they wrote that new charter.
Gotcha. Okay, follow me here. Follow me. Hold on. Middle Eastern Georgia, a little bit, right, guys? A little bit. A little bit, right?
Which one are we talking about?
Yeah, a little bit. Middle Eastern George Clooney. That's all I need. That's fine. Good enough for me. I do think that it's really funny.
Salt and pepper beard. I want one of those when I'm older.
They do look
salt and pepper beard.
super nice. I do agree. Yeah. I do think it's funny the virtue signaling that goes on between people that live in certain areas, like where they come from and citing where they come from, when in reality they're from super wealthy families. Not to call out anyone in particular because I love all of my employees equally, but like for instance, like Karantos, you're familiar with him, right? Yeah, like comes from Somalia and everything, but like very clearly he's from like an incredibly wealthy family. He does like really well. He goes to school in Malaysia, blah, blah, blah. But it's funny. I feel like a lot of that sometimes happens with some of these Palestinian leaders too, where like, oh, I'm Palestinian, blah, blah, blah. But they're from incredibly wealthy families. They're like international people. They're well-traveled, well-educated, went to school in London, Hassanabis, those types of people.
Yeah, but Karantos deserves all the wealth, and he deserves to complain about it.
True. And based. Okay, so we've got Hamas administration. Have you seen anything compelling that shows that the living conditions in the Gaza Strip are horrible?
What, now?
No, not now. Not post-October 7th, but prior to October 7th?
So unemployment was a pretty big issue. food insecurity. Again, when I say food insecurity, I mean like, you know what I mean. It's fine. Yeah, but I don't know what you mean by horrible. Do you mean like
Well, 'cause
concentration camp
I
level?
mean like
or-
concentration camp open air prison, because one of the biggest justifications
No,
that Finkelstein gives for Hamas's justification for war on October 7th was them living under concentration camp conditions.
Which concentration camp is comparable to Gaza?
That's my
I don't
question.
know.
Yeah. But hold on, wait. If I asked that, am I gonna get fucking dunked on? Was there like some fucking luxurious like Norwegian concentration camp where everybody went and they were like hanging out in bed and like?
So, like,
am I gonna get
okay,
fucked
let's
on
go
that
through
point?
them. Let's just go through them. The fucking so the South African ones, the British, well, that was like the first widespread use of them. I think like the death rate was about a third or a quarter within 2 years. That was pretty fucked up. What else? Like any of the German ones? They're not going to say any of the German ones. Like, well, they might say. I don't know. Like
Well,
it
he's not
depends.
that
Though it's such a stupid comparison because in a concentration camp, like you might be getting tortured for your political beliefs, and you're in there for no reason at all, and like you're in a confined space, and like you might be getting diseases and shit, but you might not get bombed. So I don't know. Like take it or leave. I don't know. Like. I know with Gaza, the big problems are like unemployment. I think youth PTSD is a thing, and occasionally, like obviously, economic insecurity is a thing. Which again, the locals
One
blame
thing,
from us for.
yeah,
But,
fuck.
like, yeah.
Somebody said this in YouTube chat, and I was gonna say this, but I don't know if it was just too mean. Does unemployment matter that much when you've got so much foreign aid coming? Like unemployment, if I say like first order, second order, third order problems, do you understand what I mean by that, right? That like maybe like yeah. So I feel like unemployment is like one of those. Would you consider it like a first order problem, but like the second or third order? Or maybe it would be because like unemployment isn't necessarily bad. Technically, being jobless is fucking awesome. The bad thing is not having money to afford food or not having food. That's like your first order. Like not having food is really bad. And then the second order is like not having money for food would be bad. The third order is like not having a job to earn money for food might be bad. But like if you have all your food and all of your needs are met, does unemployment matter that much?
I think the aid is always the distribution of aid is a problem, not just the fact that it's going there. And also, I guess like I think the I don't know. I think people generally like feel very humiliated when they have to depend on aid. So that's like a thing.
I don't disagree with that.
Numbers
Or,
on like
physical
Hamas
needs,
is
yeah.
like stealing aid.
Yeah.
And also, this is as good as the mic gets.
I think this is better, much better.
loud.
I think there's a lot of accusations about Hamas stealing aid. I'll probably go through that for Castled, Protective Edge, and for the Modern Conflict. I think a lot of people complain about Hamas stealing aid, including Amnesty International, Human Rights Watch, everybody else. Yeah.
But I don't know. I think if someone says concentration camp, I think a good question. I would just say like, okay, it is. Then what do you do about it? Let's like rhetorically just get out of that situation because I feel like trying to explain the different parameters between a concentration camp and Gaza is just like a pain in the ass. It's like.
Well, I think one of the central things that I'm trying to put here for the mythological language is that I think that what it's doing is it adjusts the expectations of everybody and removes the agency of the Palestinians. So, for instance, if the Palestinians were in subpar living conditions because they haven't figured out what they want their territory to look like with Israel, well, what needs to happen? Well, the Palestinians and the Israelis need to come to an agreement on what the territorial distribution should look like. But if the Palestinians live in open-air prison concentration camps where they're subject to apartheid and genocide, well, the rest of the world has to do something, right? Like, you wouldn't expect people undergoing genocide and apartheid in concentration camp conditions to save themselves. That's insane. That's an insane suggestion. So I feel like part of the reason why people use a lot of this loaded language is it removes all of the agency responsibility of the Palestinians, and it sets them up to think like, oh, well, somebody else is going to come in and do something. Clearly, they're being genocided.
Yeah, that is a problem. Yeah. I'm trying to think if there are any concentration camps that would like.
I just don't want to stumble into some dumb own. And it's like, or something I didn't know where it's like, well, actually, the really bad thing are the death camps, and all the major concentration camps that got turned into death camps, the bad ones. But actually, the average concentration camp was actually not that bad. They just did a lot of work. They were actually better than the gulags in the Soviet Union. I don't know, there's like some crazy fact like that that I'm not aware of.
I mean, even if you just follow up really quickly, like which concentration camps, there definitely wasn't any of the German ones, right? Even in Dachau, which was like a prisoner camp, like half the people died. Like, half of the prisoners died. I don't know, fucking. The death rate in Gaza is not 50%, so.
Sure. Infant mortality, 16 deaths, 1,000 live births. Let's see, we would compare, I think Jordan is a good first step. Compare two. They're 1 and 6 on both. higher is worse on this, right? That's higher is worse. I think I'd probably want to compare to, I'll say Jordan and Egypt are like your best comparisons in the region, and then from there you would, and then worse than that would, my imagination is going to be like Libya and Syria, right? Or Lebanon, if we want to be really mean. I'm just thinking of like who would I compare like the people in the Gaza Strip, their living standards to?
Oh, okay, yeah. You could ask if it was a concentration camp under Egyptian rule after 48.
Are the American the Japanese internment camps, were those considered? I know retroactively, I think some people say they're concentration camps, but was that comparison ever made at the time?
I think concentration camp used to be a pretty like okay statement. Like people would just say we're putting these political groups into concentration camps. That's what the British used to do for like people who didn't want to fight in the war.
One second. A lot of the moral loading around the term concentration camp came after the Holocaust and how it was very, very different. So not really.
Let's see. The Jordan rank is 106. You guys disagree on the self-immolation thing?
I don't know what we do.
You both just talk at the same time. I don't understand.
On the self-immolation.
I wouldn't recommend it, but do it if you want. You know, as long as you're not far away enough from other people so that they don't get hit.
No, I just don't. I super disagree. I just think it's bad. Can I clap for that?
So, like, in my mind, the big thing is that he's not crazy. That's kind of like the big main argument that I dislike. Okay. I just don't think there's a lot of evidence that the guy's mentally ill. But in terms of, like, is it acceptable to perform a protest? I think there are some situations where it can be entirely justified. Obviously, I don't think Palestine applies. But, I don't know. I can, like, imagine a case where it is, like, 1944 or 1940s, and someone is setting themselves on fire as a Jew in like America, or turning away like one of the boats or whatever. So, like, I can fathom where it makes sense as a statement.
You don't think the guy was mentally ill though?
It's possible, but I haven't seen any evidence of it. Going through some of his post history, chat logs, and Reddit account.
I think I agree with that. I think if you believe what he believes, based on what I read, you would do that. Like you would think that's like, because you would think that nothing else is working, right?
Yeah,
or nothing else is
essentially.
gonna work.
Yeah, and like there was a lot of meditation that went into it that makes it very obvious that it was not a spur of the moment thing. Like he had a will drafted, and I believe it was his last year of service. So he specifically, I think, wanted to die as a serviceman. But don't quote me on that.
It's the same opinion that I had roughly when I was watching like the two videos I watched today with Sean and Noah Samson. I think like if those two videos, for example, or just like anything like that was the only content you ever consumed on Israel-Palestine, you would actually think that like the Fourth Reich has manifested itself in the form of a Jewish state and is committing all those crimes against Palestinians with impunity and American support, right? You'd think they're not.
Yeah, they're like left-wing sisters. I don't think they're insane. They have a very different epistemic foundation.
I like how people in this fucking chat aren't getting the point. Like someone Lonerbox disagreed he could spend his life working to help these people. That's what I'm saying. If you believe what he does, you would think it's rational. Not if you believe what you do. Okay? Jesus, fuck.
Welcome to my world, Lonerbox.
Yeah, you run into this weird conundrum or paradox where, do you remember the big stuff in Canada over like the if you're allowed to kill yourself stuff?
Are you talking about the medically assisted suicide or the
medically assisted suicide?
Possible, like, telling someone like they should die.
The medically assisted suicide. There's like a catch-22 where people are like you should have the option to end your own life, but then they draw basically they say that like, well, if you want to commit suicide though, you're mentally unwell, and if you're mentally unwell, you shouldn't be able to end your own life. So you end up in a really weird world where it's like, okay, well, we should have the freedom to choose to kill ourselves, but if you ever want to kill yourself, that means that you're mentally unwell, and therefore you shouldn't be allowed to kill yourself. And when I was looking at a lot of the rhetoric surrounding this guy, a lot of people were saying things like, well, this guy was clearly mentally unwell because he set himself on fire. And then it's kind of interesting because I thought, well, if we're applying that standard with no other evidence, that technically means that almost every single act of political violence, we can say none of this was actually due to the underlying ideology. It was all because the people were mentally unwell. Like, are we going to say the guy that drove that car through the Charlottesville march, was that guy mentally well? Are we going to say school shooters are mentally well? Are we going to say that any form of political violence done by people that's incredibly extreme were mentally well? Like, at that point, it feels like you can write off basically every form of extreme political violence is coming from people that are mentally unwell, because those are probably going to be the first affected people by extremist rhetoric, are going to be the people that are on the edges of, like, sanity, you know?
I mean, were the people who carried out the Holocaust mentally well? I mean, the psychologists of the time didn't think so.
Yeah, exactly, yeah.
We thought those guys were quite normal, like bureaucrats.
Yeah. In this case specifically with mental illness, I do not like calling this specifically a suicide, just because it is more about like inflicting like deliberate pain on yourself rather than just killing yourself, and that is so much more than like dying. I don't know. It doesn't feel appropriate to call this a suicide.
Well, sure. Maybe, yeah.
Well, easiest debate of my life.
Well, I still don't think it's a good way to protest. I don't think anybody should ever protest that way. I don't think you should ever encourage anybody to protest that way.
I mean, encourage is weird. I wouldn't say encourage, but I think it is acceptable.
What do we mean when we say acceptable? Like, for instance, like if I were to go in front of a place and I were to like inject heroin into my dick and then shove a glass rod into my eye and snap it off and then jump off a building and land on the concrete but make sure I didn't hurt anybody, is that acceptable? Like, is the acceptability standard just that we're not actually hurting another human being? Everything is acceptable there? Or I'm just trying to figure, because when I hear acceptable, in my mind I'm thinking like, should this be like encouraged or seen as a legitimate form of like political protest such that people should always consider it an option?
When I say acceptable, I'm thinking like, is there a rational justification for the actions and the consequences? And I think for this action, there can be.
Well, hold on. Rational justification is begging the question. Obviously, it's rationally justified if we consider it to be an acceptable form of protest, like morally. But that's what I'm asking. Should it be acceptable to like kill yourself for a political cause?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
Okay. How do these motherfuckers in Lebanon live so long? What the fuck? 79 average year. Good job. Sorry.
That's the spice, dude. I guess specifically, when I think acceptable, I think, could you build out a way that this is a political action more than it is just self-harm? Is it more like a statement of speech as an individual than it is just hurting yourself for no good reason? And I think that's the case. Like, should someone be allowed to hunger strike in your world?
Yeah, but I think hunger strike doesn't generally lead to like death, right?
Well, yeah, I think the point of this is the extremism. I think it's meant to be an extreme. So.
There's an interesting standard that I applied. When I went to Iowa, I gave a speech in some school, and there was the head of the poli-sci department. I got to show them a couple hours after just to pick his brain. And he brought up a really interesting thing relating to protests, and it had to do with the difference between peaceful and violent protests. And it was a way to analyze what types of protests you should encourage that I'd never considered before. And it was in the context of like a lot of the MLK stuff, I think, because I was reading about like nonviolent principles of all this at the time. And one of the things that he told me was when he considers protests, he tries to think of like what type of protest would you encourage such that if people did it incorrectly, it wouldn't be that harmful to society. It wouldn't be like destructive. And he was like, one of the problems with violent protests is that if the wrong people violently protest, it's really bad. But if the wrong people engage in like active nonviolence, well, you know, they're protesting, demonstrating, whatever, but it's not as bad. And that perspective of thinking like, okay, well, if I take like forms of protest and I apply them to people that I super disagree with, what are the things that limit, you know, social destruction? Okay, it's kind of a lens that I get out here. So, I don't know, the idea of like green-lighting anything relating to death or person-to-person violence, I think it's really scary. Any type of violence is really scary without having a really good reason, I think.
In this case, just because the action is so extreme and there's so much just innate resistance to do it in the first place. I don't see this as like green lighting everyone to set themselves on fire. That just doesn't seem realistic to me. Outside of the pragmatic, I don't know. I think you should be allowed to do something that extreme for you to have like a justification. You have a good justification.
Why? Let's go to the next one. Why do you think you should be able to do that?
I believe there would be instances where, as an individual, political speech is way more important. You feel your political speech or statement is way more important than your life itself. So, going back to the Holocaust analogy, you're a Jew in America, and you want America to intervene against concentration camps. But it's over in Germany, no one cares. You set yourself on fire in, like, I don't know, near a monument or something. I think that's totally justified in my